the heart of Australia, a different kind of war was raging. Not with bullets or bombs, but with boost, burnout smoke, and brutal torque. A battle of brands, of engineering, of legacy. And when the smoke cleared, from the ashes of defeat and desperation, rose a machine that would rewrite the rules of performance. It wasn't just an engine. It was defiance cast in iron. A symbol of Aussie resilience, built not for luxury, but for domination. Forged in secret, refined in silence, and unleashed with fury. Its name? Simple. Legendary Barra. Chapter 1. Rivalries that shaped legends. The War Down Under. Much like the legendary feud between Carroll Shelby and Enzo Ferrari, Australia had its own automotive war, one that would shape generations. But this battle wasn't fought in Europe. It roared across the sunburnt streets and smoky racetracks of the land down under. Ford versus Holden. Two titans, two cultures. One obsession, dominance. On one side stood Holden's Commodore, the pride of General Motors Australia. It wasn't just a family sedan, it was a street weapon. In 1999, Holden dropped a bombshell, the HSV GTS Series 2, armed with the LS1 V8, an all-aluminium pushrod monster straight from the Corvette program. Tuned by none other than Reeves Callaway, this version boasted CNC-ported heads, titanium valve springs, a custom camshaft, and a speed density tune that threw the MAF sensor in the bin. The result? Over 400 horsepower. Lightweight, sharp, ruthless. Meanwhile, over in Broadmeadows, Ford was hurting. The Falcon was still clinging to the old Intec Inline 6 and Windsor V8s. Sure, they were reliable, but they were relics, crude, slow, outgunned. Holden wasn't just winning the horsepower war, they were dragging Ford behind the shed and giving them a hiding. Ford couldn't import a fix. Detroit wouldn't send the modular V8s, and their own lineup was ancient. They had to do something radical, something local. And that's when the war room lit up. Chapter 2. The Rise of the Barra, Birth of a Beast. Inside Ford Australia, a top-secret project known as Project Gull was brewing. The mission? Not just to match the LS1, but to humiliate it. Gordon Barfield, head of Special Vehicle Operations, led the charge. His vision? Reimagine the aging Inline 6, turbocharge it, reinforce it, and turn it into a weapon. His now infamous words? We knew it would shit on everything, and they weren't bluffing. Ford poured over 500 million Australian dollars into the development of the BA Falcon and its engine, logging over 24,000 hours of testing. The result? A 4-litre DOHC Inline 6 unlike anything Australia had seen. They named it the Barra, after the barramundi fish. But this engine had more bite than anything swimming in local waters. At its core, a closed-deck cast-iron block, reinforced with cross-bolted mains, was built to endure the punishing forces of boost, coupled with a 24-valve aluminium head. Inspired by BMW's Vanos tech and dual-variable cam timing, the Barra didn't just breathe, it howled. Then came the turbo, the Garrett GT3540. Ball-bearing, oil and water-cooled. It was the same unit found in the R34 Skyline GTR, but here, it was just waking up. Factory boost? A tame 6.5 psi. But with a tune, injectors and fuel pump, this engine could lay down 400 to 450 horsepower at the wheels, all on stock internals. It wasn't just an engine, it was Ford's revenge. A factory-sold street weapon that could wipe the smug grin off any LS-powered driver, with one cam less. Chapter 3. Forging a Legend. To become a legend in Australia, an engine needed more than just power. It needed endurance, respect, and a legacy forged on the track and in the streets. Racing sells cars, and in Australia, the racetrack is sacred ground. At the time, Holden was dominating V8 supercars, while Ford struggled with outdated power plants. They needed more than just a good engine, they needed a masterpiece. The magic of the Barra started with its solid foundation. A cast iron block reinforced with ribbing and bracing, provided rock-solid rigidity even under extreme load. With a closed deck design for added cylinder support, the Barra could handle pressure like few others. Unlike its Japanese rivals, which relied on metallurgy, the Barra's strength came from superior geometry. With a bore and stroke of 92.26 mm by 99.31 mm, the Barra was under-square, built for torque rather than high revving performance. Peak torque hit between 2,000 to 4,500 RPM, perfect for daily driving, lethal when tuned. Sitting on top of that beefy bottom end was a gravity-cast aluminum head designed with variable camshaft timing for dual personalities. Calm and efficient at cruise, but a raging beast when the turbo kicked in. Speaking of which, the Garrett GT3540 Turbo was a game-changer. Rated at 240 kilowatts, around 322 horsepower from the factory, it was capable of flowing air for over 600 horsepower. And this wasn't even the high-performance variant. Chapter 4. The Underground Revolution. What happened next was inevitable. Tuners saw the potential, and they went wild. The XR6 Turbo Falcon models, equipped with the Barra, became the go-to weapon for Aussie performance enthusiasts. Weekend drag races, highway pulls, underground car meets. The Barra was everywhere. Why? Because underneath the surface, the differences between Barra variants were small, but crucial. The block and crankshaft, nearly identical across models. The real changes came in the rods and pistons. The early naturally aspirated engines had the infamous 1R spaghetti rods. Weak on paper, but still capable of handling over 400 kilowatts or 530 horsepower with the right tune and mods. Later, Barra versions brought the 3R rods, found in FPV models, blacktop territory turbos, green top e-gas taxis, and post-2006 red tops. These rods were forged, stout, and ready for punishment. People started doing insane things. You could grab a $300 green top taxi engine from a junkyard, bolt on a turbo head with Inconel valves, better valve springs, head studs, upgraded oil pump gear, run E85, and walk away with Hellcat Red Eye level power. Chapter 5. The Barra's street and law enforcement takeover. But it wasn't just backyard tuners having all the fun. The Barra made its way into law enforcement. Across Australia and New Zealand, the XR6 Turbo Falcons became the backbone of the police fleet. Why? Because they were fast, reliable, and comfortable. Back in the day, turbocharged Subarus and Mitsubishis used to outrun the cops. Now, not anymore. In fact, Ford even looked at bringing the Barra to America, twice. Once in 2005 and again in 2009. They tried to convert the Falcon to left-hand drive for US police duty, possibly to replace the aging Crown Victoria. But both times, corporate in Detroit shut it down. Meanwhile, Holden capitalized. They exported the Caprice PPV to the US with a V6 or a 6-liter L77 V8. The Falcon never got its American spotlight, not because it wasn't good enough, but because Detroit didn't want another hero. Chapter 6. More than an engine. A cultural movement. The Barra didn't just become a performance icon, it became a cultural symbol. The supercars controversy. When Ford proposed bringing the Turbo Barra to V8 supercars, traditionalists were furious. The series had long been a battleground of V8s, and a Turbo 6 was heresy. The compromise? A naturally aspirated 5-liter Barra that, frankly, under-delivered. It couldn't match the brutal torque of the turbocharged version. It was a missed opportunity, but one that fueled the Barra's outlaw status even more. The generation gap. For some, the Barra was a joke, until it started breaking records. My dad hated these things, laughs 22-year-old Liam, who's mid-swap on a Silvia S13. He was all about V8s, but now, he's helping me drop one into my car. It's full circle. Chapter 7. The legacy lives on. In 2016, Ford Australia closed its doors. The Falcon, and with it, the Barra, was officially dead. But the legend, it's just getting started. Prices for clean Barra engines are climbing fast. Demand has exploded globally. You'll find Barras being swapped into everything from Mazda MX-5s to Porsche 911s, and their reputation as the sleeper king grows daily on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. In workshops from Perth to Poland, people are waking up to the fact that Australia, quietly and defiantly, built one of the greatest performance engines of all time. This wasn't a car culture built on prestige. It wasn't about status. It was built on ingenuity, passion, and a refusal to follow the rules. The Barra wasn't supposed to happen, and that's exactly why it did. The Ford Barra is proof that greatness doesn't always come from a legacy badge or a billion-dollar marketing campaign. Sometimes it comes from necessity, from engineers who were told they couldn't, from a car community that refused to let go. It's the sound of rebellion, the spirit of Australia, and it's still roaring. The Barra lives on, and the legend only grows. Felt that? That's the sound of Aussie steel and rebellion. Subscribe now for more outlaw machines, forgotten legends, and stories they never told you are on the way. And trust me, this ride's just getting started.